Welcome to today's Tech It Out Assistive Technology Device Demo. This interactive series is a collaboration between the Rutgers Community Living Education Project, also known as CLEP, and the Richard West Assistive Technology Advocacy Center at Disability Rights, New Jersey. Today's demonstration is being presented in collaboration with, well, usually it would be Mike Murata, along with Naomi Leibowitz, representing the Richard West Assistive Technology Center, along with special guest speakers, Kristen Russell and Michael Graham from Advancing Opportunities. My name is Melanie McGackin, and I am representing the Rutgers Community Living Education Project team. CLEP is a program through the Rutgers University School of Public Health. The CLEP team is committed to providing mentorship and empowering families with information and resources regarding the possibilities in community living for people with intellectual and/or developmental disabilities. The CLEP team members' contact information, Kristen, can you just advance that slide? Thank you, is now on your screen. So please feel free to contact us for additional information or to see how we can support you when you or someone you know is ready to explore community living options. Before we get started, let's go over how you can best participate during today's demonstration. To assure the highest sound quality possible, all attendees will initially be muted during today's event. To interact with the hosts or presenters, please use the Q&A option on your screen. And we encourage you to ask your questions live during today's demonstration. So please send us a message letting us know that you would like to be unmuted, and we'll be happy to unmute your microphone during your turn. We also recognize that we learn from each other. So if you have a great resource to offer, please feel free to share your ideas in the chat section of the Zoom control panel with the other attendees. At this time, I'm happy to welcome all of today's presenters. Naomi, would you like to introduce?
Sure.
Thank you.
Hi. Welcome, everyone, to our last Tech Out on physical access. If you want to get these slides, the link is up there. I'm also going to put it in the chat for you. Also, you could just take a snapshot of the QR code. And give me 1 second. I am this is us, Mike Moran. Mike, unfortunately, couldn't be with us today. And I'm Naomi. Please, you can advance the slides. And we are excited to have Kristen Russell and Michael Graham from Advancing Opportunities with us presenting on physical access. Please advance. And you heard this a million times. If this is your first time here, we are the AT Act for New Jersey, and we do 3 core services: device demonstrations, which is just comparing and contrasting devices. And then you get to decide what you would like to try from our loan program, which is of Advancing Opportunities. And Kristen will tell you more about that. And then we have the device reuse program. Next slide. And our last one is going to be December 7th. It's open mic questions, so you can ask all your burning questions about whatever you have on your mind. And now I'm going to turn it over to Kristen and Michael. Thank you so much for being here.
Awesome. Thank you, Naomi. Thank you, Melanie. Michael and I are really happy to be here for the last Tech It Out. And we have a lot of good things to share with you today. This is kind of one of my favorite things to talk about. There's so many cool tools out there. But before we get into that, I just want to tell you a little bit more about the Assistive Technology Lending Center. So like Naomi mentioned, this is one of the 3 core programs that New Jersey's ATAC coordinates, and we're a subcontractor for them. So the Assistive Technology Lending Center is literally just like a library of assistive technology tools that can be borrowed. So this is a completely free service for anyone who lives or works in New Jersey. And the whole point is to be able to get your hands on assistive technology tools to try them out before you go out and buy them. So it's a really great resource, and we encourage you to tap into it. A lot of the things that we will be showing today, not everything, but a lot of the things that we'll show you are available in our Technology Lending Center. We call it the TLC. So just to give you an idea of the variety of things that are in the TLC, I put some pictures up here on the on this slide. So we have I'll start at the bottom left. We have a keyboard that has bigger keys. Then next to that is an adaptive Xbox controller. I'm going to talk about both of those later. Next to that in the lower right-hand corner is an example of an ergonomic mice. So we have tons and tons of different mice and keyboard alternatives, both ergonomic and otherwise.
Could you try?
My Apple Watch is talking to me. We also have there in the center, the spoon. That's a spoon that helps people with tremors. So there's a lot of fancy technology inside that spoon that helps to keep the spoon level so the food doesn't fall off it. So that's a cool tool. And then along the right side, we have that Elmo. That's a switch adapted toy. So you see the little cord coming out of it. A switch can plug into that. And when, for example, a child hits the switch, Elmo does his Elmo thing. And underneath that is another mouse alternative that's a head mouse. So it's a mouse controlled by head movement. And we're going to talk about that later. So that just kind of gives you an example of the things that are in the Lending Center. How it works is we ship things out. So you would reach out to us. The contact info is here. You would reach out to us. Let us know what you're interested in borrowing. If you're not sure, you can describe what you're looking for generally, and we'll help let you know what we have and give you some ideas. Probably the most popular loan that we have is iPads. We do loan out iPads with a variety of apps so people can try. That's very commonly borrowed for communication apps like Proloquo or TouchChat, for example. So we ship out the equipment to you and via UPS. You can borrow it for 4 to 6 weeks. You put it back in the same box it came with. There's another UPS box or label that you can affix that's already paid for. And then you just need to either schedule a UPS pickup or drop it off. So totally free. You're not paying for anything, but you're getting an opportunity to try things out. Okay. So moving on from the TLC, before we look at tools, one last little disclaimer would be the tools only part of the solution. So the tools we're going to show today, there's a lot of really cool, interesting things, but we've all seen technology get into people's hands that looks great and we think will be awesome and then doesn't really pan out to do much. It just kind of sits on the shelf. And we want to avoid that happening as much as possible. So there's always also human support needs, somebody needed to help implement the tool. That's really, really important that we don't just look at the tool, that we also look at how are we teaching somebody to use it? How are we setting it up in a position that's going to work for someone? And then just some other little advice would be to keep it simple. We could get really elaborate sometimes, but usually the simplest option is the best long-term option. And, to not keep searching for the perfect tool. Because sometimes there's more than one tool that's going to do the job, and better to get started with something than to be always looking. So, all right, so let's get into it. All right, so let's see. I'm sorry, I'm skipping ahead here. Okay, all right. So what we're talking about today is different assistive technology tools for physical access. So this is the plan. We're going to first talk a little bit about positioning. So we're going to talk about things like chairs and tables and desks. And then we're going to look at some tools to help with handwriting, some mouse and keyboard options. We're going to talk a little bit about dictation and switch access, and end on a fun note with gaming. So we got a lot to talk about. So we're going to get started. All right. So first, before we talk anything about the tools, I would not be a responsible occupational therapist if I didn't say that, and I just realized we never really introduced ourselves. Michael. Michael and I are both occupational therapists and work just doing assistive technology evaluations and trainings. Gosh, I skipped over that whole part. We both work at Advancing Opportunities, and in our roles there, aside from helping out in the Lending Center, we go out and do evaluations in people's homes or workplaces or schools, looking at what assistive technology tools would help meet their needs. So we're both OTs, and we have to talk about positioning with all of the things that we're going to talk about today, whether it's a mouse or a keyboard or a handwriting tool or a gaming tool. Positioning is really where we always need to start. So we need to make sure if somebody has a physical disability and we're asking them to, use their arms and be doing fine motor tasks, we need to make sure that there's a lot of stability in their trunk and their hips. So looking at the seating that a person has is a really good place to start. So sometimes this may be a wheelchair, but if not, these three colorful chairs down here on the left side are Riften activity chairs. So you commonly see these in school. They can be kind of simple chairs that just provide some armrest and seatbelt and some, kind of better seating support, all the way to things that are rolling, that have extra straps or a pommel or a headrest. So we can really meet the needs of the person sitting in there. So there's lots and lots of customizable options out there. On the right side is an example of an ergonomic chair. So we definitely wanted to sprinkle in some ergonomics here. Ergonomic chairs are generally going to have a lot of levers underneath. If you see this chair, there's a lot of different levers, meaning there's a lot of adjustability. And I think you'll see that through what we talk about today, that I think Michael and I are both always looking for a tool that is adjustable. That way we can tweak and we have a lot of flexibility. Sometimes just an inch or two can make or break the tool working for a person. All right. So I wanted to pull just a couple of examples of different types of table options. So we're moving on from the chair. Let's hope that we have a good position in the chair. Now we need to look at what are we putting the computer on or the iPad on or the gaming device or whatever it may be. So looking here, a lot of times like in a school or a workplace, we have a desk that is not adjustable. It just is what it is. So we're looking at different options that can really adjust and go right exactly where the person needs it, so they can use it comfortably with as little fatigue as possible, and they can access everything they need to ask. I don't know why the bottom of my slide is a little bit hidden there, but this is something we recently purchased at the TLC. This item is probably not shippable. It's very, very heavy base. Think like a weight, like on a weight machine. It's extremely heavy, so it's very stable, but it moves. And this is like a telescoping arm, so you can adjust it and you can change the angle. So you could put something on here like a laptop, but you could put a book, you could put a iPad, whatever it may be. So this is a great option that's flexible and kind of movable. The one on the right here, this is like a more standard over the bed table you might see in a hospital room. So this might be able to go under someone's bed or a chair. These could be a little tricky with wheelchairs because they don't always fit under, but this has height adjustability, and a lot of times the table can tilt forward or backward. Okay, so just a few ideas. Michael's going to chat a little bit about some desk options.
Good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to have this opportunity to spend time with all of you. Let me preface my comments by saying that I will try to keep all of my comments brief since we have a lot of information to cover. And once we've finished reviewing all the slides, I'm happy to review anything in greater detail. So with ergonomics, I would say that it's important to try to find an ergonomic solution for everyone. People with physical disabilities, people with non-physical disabilities, even people with no disabilities, because we don't want a poor workplace environment to potentially cause a disability. So you may have heard sitting is the new smoking. In other words, sitting at a desk at the workplace or to study for school for prolonged periods of time can be implicated in a number of adverse health conditions. So one possibility to mitigate that risk is to use what's called a height adjustable desk. And a height adjustable desk enables the user to alternate between working or studying from a seated position or a standing position. So on the right side of the screen is a picture of a height adjustable desk. There are dozens, if not hundreds, of different options. This particular option in the photo is called like the FISBO. And on the right corner of the desk, immediately below the desk, you might see like a gray control panel, and you can simply press the up button or the down button to move the desk between a position that allows you to work while seated or a position that allows you to work while standing. So you basically plug the desk into a standard outlet in your wall. Some of the disadvantages or risks of a height adjustable desk are varicose veins and foot pain. So if you'd be kind enough to advance to the next slide. One of the ways to mitigate those risks is to start slow. So this slide contains a 2-week schedule for a way that you might want to manage starting to use height adjustable desk. In other words, you want to start slow or start small, like maybe your first day, you are standing for only 1 hour in your workday or your study day, and the rest of the time you're working from a seated position. And then towards the end of the second week, then you can start to stand for approximately 4 hours per day and sit for the remainder of your workday. And what I've read online suggests that standing for longer than 4 hours per day might actually be counterproductive. So I think the key is really alternating between sitting and standing. And if you could advance to the next slide. One way to mitigate the risk of foot pain and other issues, as you can see in the image on the right, we have a woman who's standing on a black mat. You could purchase some sort of mat that functions as a shock absorber to help cushion your feet a little bit. So this slide contains photos of 2 standing desk converters. So a standing desk converter is a tool that enables you to use your existing table or your existing desk. So right now, let me back up and say, all of this ergonomic discussion is a little bit near and dear to my heart because I have started to experience some aches and pains due to using my laptop. And just last week, I actually bought the standing desk converter you see in the image on the left with the black standing desk converter. And the brand name is FlexiSpot. I bought it used for $65 via Facebook Marketplace. So you can find a lot of these options used via Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or other options to find a used product that might be significantly cheaper. So just to really define what is a standing desk converter, it's something you put on your existing desk. So your existing desk or your existing table doesn't move. It's always at the same height. But then the standing desk converter enables you to move your computer up so you can work from a standing position, or you can move it down so you're working from a seated position. And some of the disadvantages of a standing desk converter are that they are bulky and heavy. So as I mentioned, I am speaking to you right now. I'm standing and my computer is on the FlexiSpot standing desk converter, which is the image on the left of the screen. And like getting this home was like a little bit of a challenge for me because it's pretty heavy. And then another disadvantage is takes up a lot of desk space per se. Otherwise, I'm loving it so far.
Awesome.
Next slide,
Michael,
please.
can I just add one thing here? I just want to back up. these height adjustable desks are excellent for ergonomics, like how Michael's describing, but they are also excellent for people who are using a wheelchair or just need the ability to move the desk up and down for whatever reason. So sometimes if someone's using a wheelchair, a typical height desk is not going to work. We need a couple inches higher. So these desks are perfect for that. And I feel like since COVID, there's like a million options, and you can get one for like $200 on Amazon. So they're great options. Okay. Back to you, Michael.
Thank you.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, another quick comment about the adjustable height desks is I'm working with a client who is experiencing significant tailbone pain. So we were looking at height adjustable desk as a way for her to help manage that. So in other words, sitting for prolonged periods of time could exacerbate her tailbone pain, whereas switching between sitting and standing will hopefully mitigate or manage her tailbone pain a little bit. In terms of lap desks, the benefit is they can facilitate laptop use in unconventional locations. For instance, the photo on the top is a woman using her laptop on a staircase, and the photo on the bottom is a man who's using his laptop from his bed. And one thing that you can consider one thing you should consider with lap desks is what's the degree of neck flexion required. So you see the image on the top of the screen, the woman is having to bend her neck to a significant degree to look at her laptop screen, which could cause, long-term neck issues. Whereas the lap desk on the bottom of the screen pushes the laptop screen a little bit higher, so that individual is having to bend his neck a little bit less. So that's something to consider with lap desks.
Okay, similarly, the items on this screen are similar, but inexpensive and great positioning tools. So in particular, the one on the right just kind of folds up, but gives a lot of adjustability to put a device on. So this could help position something so it's visually easier to see, like Michael was saying, keeps the neck in a better position. But this also could help as someone with a physical disability, like cerebral palsy, for example, maybe reach the keyboard better. So having the ability to put it at a little bit of an angle or raise it up and down or change the tilt really can help. All right. There's also lots and lots and lots and lots of different mounting type systems. So I gave a couple of popular names. This one right here on the left is a modular hose. This is like real easy to use. So this could be used. They have lots of different variety. Here is obviously a cell phone mount. This big clothespin thing. This is a real heavy duty clothespin that, and Michael's holding it up and demonstrating it in real life. So that's great. It could clamp to a wheelchair. It could clamp to a desk. It's pretty simple to use. The tubing does support some weight, but is also flexible. So there's not a lot of complicated adjustments. So modular hose are excellent to hold phones particularly, but could even hold an iPad as long as you have the right components. So that would be a little bit more low tech. On the right is a picture of a mountain mover, which is a much more involved mounting situation. This is mounting this person's communication device, but it could mount like something like a laptop as well. And this is actually installed onto the person's wheelchair. So it's a very particular you have to know exactly the parts that you need. So it's a little bit more involved and a higher price point, but can keep something very sturdy as opposed to the modular hose is a little more movable. So lots of different mounting systems for a variety of devices. Okay, so enough about the positioning. We're moving into some handwriting options. Michael, I can't remember if this is your slide.
Yeah, so I can talk about this a little briefly. So for instance, the image on the right in the blue is called Pen Again. And I'm demonstrating a yellow version of it. This can be beneficial for an individual who may have some motor impairments to facilitate handwriting. You would simply put the index finger over it, or depending on the person's comfort, could even be the middle finger. And this just provides a little more support and stability while an individual is writing. And there are several other options. You can see this option simply slides over the index finger or the ring finger, and again, enables the individual to write a little more easily.
That one's
This-
called a ring pen, I believe, right? That one that you were just showing, a ring pen.
Exactly. And it's with the ring pen, it sort of has a pen built into it per se. Whereas the ring pen ultra, which I'm showing now, enables you to put to like interchange your own pen per se. So the advantage of this could be if you need to perhaps write in different colors or use colored pencils, you could easily put, hopefully you can see me taking this pen out of it. And now I could put a different pen or pencil or colored pencil. So I won't belabor this slide, but I would say there's a lot of options out there. So try
Yeah.
different options and see what option might work best for your client.
Yeah, and these pens that Michael showed are excellent for someone who has arthritis, and the gripping of the pen is really painful because there's less of a need to grip there. So similar but different, there are these I don't know, maybe I guess they're silicone devices. Michael, am I stealing your slide here? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm trying to, I was just
Okay.
reading, I was just reading 1 or 2 days ago, what is it made out of? You're 100% correct. It is silicone.
Okay, awesome.
So this is called the Easy Hold, and I'm demonstrating it right now. It gives children and adults the ability to hold on to tons of items with ease. It was invented in 2014 in California. A woman who had recently injured her thumb was trying to sweep out her barn, and she was having some difficulties. So she literally like duct taped her hand to the broom.
Wow.
And then her sisters came over to visit, and her sisters were like, we need to find something more sophisticated than just duct taping your hand to the broom. So the 3 sisters started this company called Easy Hold. One of the advantages is that it's dishwasher safe. And as you can see in the image on the right, there's an image of Easy Holds being used to hold like a marker, a paintbrush, a toy, a comb, an electric toothbrush, fork, and a spoon. And I've even seen images of the Easy Hold being used to hold like a hammer or other tools, or even a hose to water your garden. And right now, I'm using it in my right hand to hold a razor. So it really can be used to hold a million different implements and tools. So depending on whether you buy the whole pack, it can be closer to $50, whereas if you need it only for a particular item and you know exactly the size you need, it could be closer to the $13. So as you can see here in the bag, they sell packages with like all of the different sizes.
Awesome. They're super cool. I love those. Along the same lines, there's a even newer tool out, and this is definitely something we have in our lending center, called a functional hand. And it's just another would be another option similar to the Easy Hold. Essentially what you can see, I'll show you on this whisk thing, there's this blue piece that someone would grasp, and there's this like little bungee kind of black string, for lack of a better word. It's more substantial than a string, but it's like elastic. So you would pull, you could put whatever you want in there, and then just pull the bungee to tighten it. So it's a great tool, I think, to have in a school, for example, where you could easily modify whether it's a crayon or some art tool or a cooking activity or whatever it may be, to help the student hold on. And you could even combine this with an easy hold to do even more. All right. Like one of the most super cool new things that we have in the Technology Lending Center is a newer device called Guided Hands. And if you look at the left picture, you can see that the person rests their hand and it's on like this grid type system. So it allows someone who has limited dexterity or like weakness in their arm to still be able to do a lot of different things. So this would be a great way to adapt art for someone, for example. So they do need some arm movement, but the arm piece that the person's hand is holding onto is connected to this crossbar, and it can move up and down and they can move over, but they're getting a lot of support to do that. So you could definitely use it with a stylus for an iPad, handwriting, painting, drawing, all sorts of different things. So it's a really cool new invention. Okay, and I wanted to also definitely point out an awesome resource called Active Hands. Their website is fascinating. There's so many inventive different tools for people who have reduced hand functioning, particularly. So let's say maybe somebody had a stroke or a spinal cord injury or needed to do things just using one hand. There's all sorts of cool unique inventions that you probably won't find anywhere. If you like do Instagram, you should like them on Instagram because you'll see different examples from time to time. So one of their main products is this general purpose gripping aid, which I believe the person who started the company has a spinal cord injury, is able to move his arm, but doesn't have finger movement. So this gripping aid is shown here with a weight. A lot of people use these for different exercise equipment, but it could be used for a lot of different things. So essentially, like, it straps on and it like holds the thing in the person's hand for them. So now this person can do some exercising by lifting their shoulder, but they don't need to hold on to the weight, which they wouldn't be able to do. So lots and lots of cool inventions. This other thing is a spill knot. So a way for someone who is maybe using a wheelchair to carry something around, and it keeps this, somehow this is a lot more stable, even though you're carrying it with some movement. So I encourage you to check that out. Okay, so we're gonna move now into different mouse options. So before we look at the actual mouse, we have like access to such great touchscreens now, obviously on our phones and iPads, but also on our devices, on our computers, I should say, on our computers. These are actually both Chromebooks. So if any of you are listening from school districts, there are touchscreen Chromebooks available for sure. This one here on the left is a 2-in-1, meaning that we have tons of flexibility. We can put it in a regular, typical laptop position. We can bend it all the way back and make it just like a tablet, or we can have it at an angle like you see here. So that's awesome because we have flexibility. So maybe the student, because of the keyboard and the touchpad of a traditional Chromebook, makes it so the screen is too far away for them to really access. This gives the flexibility to bring it really close to them, which can make a huge difference. On the left is another example. This one's detachable, sort of like a Surface Pro, for those of you familiar. So you could take the tablet off, you could use it as a tablet. It magnetically connects back to the keyboard if you want to use it as a keyboard. So lots of cool options there. I think touchscreens are particularly great for scrolling, like scrolling through a web page with a mouse can be a labor. But on a touchscreen, if somebody can touch the screen and just give it a flick anywhere on the screen, it'll scroll for them. Okay, moving on to trackballs. There are a lot of great trackballs. All of these we have in the Lending Center. Kensington is a really excellent, well-known trackball brand. I love the one in the middle. This is called the Expert Mouse. It has 4 buttons and a really great scroll wheel. And the cool thing you can do with the buttons is there's a software component, so you can customize what these different buttons do. So for example, I set one up this morning that I'm going to use for an appointment tomorrow. I set this top left button to drag. So that's useful for somebody who needs to select text, which is challenging typically with a trackball. This one I programmed as copy. And then if somebody hits both of these at once, which is sometimes can be done by hitting right in the center of both of them right here in the center of the mouse, that would be paste. So it just, again, gives you a lot of flexibility. This one is cool, this big track, because it has a little switch port. So somebody can use the ball to move the mouse around, but has difficulty clicking these buttons, we can plug in a switch to be the click. Okay, lots of joystick options as well. These are great. These are sort of similar to a standard wheelchair joystick, a power chair joystick. So that gives an option for some people. A lot of assistive technology joysticks have interchangeable handles. So you'll see these here. So they can be in a T shape or a ball. This particular mouse is called a Jouse, and it's a mouth controlled mouse. So this is a big mount arm that clamps onto a desk, and this is the mouthpiece. And a person, it would have to be positioned, really well. A person would then use their tongue or their lips or their cheek to move it around, to move this mouthpiece around, which would control the mouse on the screen. And then they use a sip or a puff to click and right click. So it's a really cool device. Even fancier is head mouse options. So these are just, your computer is just looking at them as a mouse, but you're wearing it on your head. So this one is a headband that goes behind the ears. They're wireless. This one is more in a glasses format, but there's other options. These are just examples. And basically the person's moving their head. It doesn't have to be large, drastic head movements. It can be just small, subtle movements, and is able to control the mouse on the screen, including clicking. So those are 2 things in the TLC. They're really awesome. If clicking, going back to kind of the ergonomics part, if clicking is challenging, like that repetitive movement is very painful, there are foot pedals that people can use to click. So these would just plug into a USB port on your computer and sit under someone's desk. They would move the mouse in, with their whatever way they are comfortable moving the mouse. But when it comes to click, their foot would do the clicking. Kind of interesting. Whoops, went too far. All right, Michael, you're up with some more ergonomics here.
Yes, I had a brief comment about the enabler.
Sure.
If you'd be so kind as to go back a few slides to the enabler. So the enabler is, or the version in the center of the screen.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, this is the enabler. I have them out of order.
Spent a lot of time with this device a few months ago, and a couple of features that I'll mention briefly are it has an anti-tremor feature that you can turn on and off. So in other words, if an individual has some tremor symptoms, this device can help sort of dampen those tremors per se to make the cursor movement on the screen a little smoother. Also, another task that can be difficult when using the mouse is like dragging text, for instance, because while you're dragging, you kind of have to keep the button depressed, which can be challenging. So if I remember correctly, the Enabler Pro sort of has a feature where you can click and then move the toggle to drag or to select what you want to select and then click another button. In other words, you don't have to hold the button down during the entire time that you're selecting text or selecting some other item. So some really cool features with the Enabler Pro. The disadvantage of it, in my opinion, is that it is bulky and might sort of have that social stigma aspect where it doesn't look like mainstream technology, unfortunately. So diving into ergonomics, we're 41 minutes into the presentation.
I was
so
just gonna
would-
say, we got a lot left here, I think.
Yeah, so I'd invite you all to take like a 2-second stretch up and just let your hands dangle down. And everyone's different, but I noticed that when I just let my hands dangle by my sides, my palms are facing each other. Like my palms are facing into my body, sort of like this. So this is sort of like more of a neutral position, whereas most conventional mice sort of force our hands into this position. A more ergonomic position is like this. So some ergonomic mice, such as the image in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, which I'm showing you now, enable you to have your hand and wrist in a more neutral position, which can be healthier from an ergonomic perspective. And this mouse in particular enables you to achieve movement through more gross motions of your shoulder and elbow versus fine movements of like your hand, wrist, and fingers. Similarly, the keyboard on the lower right side of the screen enables you to type a little bit closer to that ergonomic position of having your palms facing each other. And similarly, the image on the lower left side of the screen is making the point that the general principle in ergonomics is simply to try to have everything in as natural or neutral posture as possible. So you just want your sort of forearms and wrists and hands and fingers all to be in a little bit of a straight line, whereas the like X, like the unsafe position, is showing the individual sort of bending both hands towards the pinky side or bending the hands away from each other. And the image on the upper left side of the screen shows that the ideal posture for using a keyboard is with your elbows at roughly a 90-degree angle, but in fact, your hands and wrists just ever so slightly lower than your elbow. So I'm just checking the chat real quick to see if we have a question. Okay, just an individual introducing themselves. So if you'd be so kind as to advance to the next slide. In the Lending Center, we have several alternative keyboards that you can borrow for either yourself or your client. Some of these keyboards facilitate one-handed typing, such as the image in the upper right side of the screen, which is the Maltron keyboard. And I'll show you it here. The disadvantage of this keyboard is it's a little bit bulky and it is not in the QWERTY configuration. So there was a learning curve in terms of the individual learning where the keys are located. This company is called Maltron, and they make a one-handed keyboard for both right or left-handed use. And this could be perfect for like a small child who's never learned any keyboard and can type with only one hand, but it might be frustrating for an adult who's been typing with a QWERTY keyboard with both hands and then suddenly is able to use only one hand. That individual might be frustrated to discover that the keys are in a different configuration. There are also keyboards that support hands-free typing, such as the image on the lower right side of the screen, in which the individual is using an alternative means to press the keys. And then on the lower left, we have a one-handed keyboard. So if an individual wants to type the letter D, they just press the D key. But imagine the individual wants to type the letter K as in kangaroo. What they would do is they would hold down the space bar and then press the letter D as in David. But you see there's a little K as in kangaroo right below the David. So when you press and hold the space bar, you'll be actually typing the smaller letters, if that makes sense. So I'm checking the chat to see if there's a question. Oh, just to welcome Cindy. So next slide, please. We also have several alternative keyboards. The advantages of some of the keyboards, such as the ones on the upper side of the screen with the black text on yellow keys can be a little bit higher contrast from a visual perspective, could assist individuals with visual impairment. The keyboard on the lower right side of the screen has what's called a key guard, and I'll demonstrate that very briefly. It is simply a conventional keyboard that has plastic over the keys. So an individual with tremor symptoms, for instance, might accidentally depress 2 keys simultaneously and then have to delete it, which can cause frustration and inefficiency in typing an email or report. Whereas this key guard has a plastic guard that makes it impossible to type 2 keys simultaneously. So it really forces your finger to be isolated into the key you're desiring. Next slide, please.
These are just some links here.
So briefly, the 6th digit 2 is a device made by Active Hands, which was the company that Kristen was mentioning a few moments ago. We sometimes use them with our clients recovering from spinal cord injury, and they can facilitate both typing. So you simply put it on your 4th and 5th finger, and then you could type with it, as well as use it with stylus. Use it as a stylus for a smartphone or a tablet. And if you are using these with an individual with a spinal cord injury, just check for skin integrity in terms of whether it's causing any redness or irritation in the skin. But this can be beneficial for individuals who might not be able to isolate the finger movements to type, but might be able to type using this more gross motion.
I love those. All right. If none of the keyboards, that we looked at work well for a person, but they have good access with a mouse, a great option there would be to use a built-in on-screen keyboard that is available on most devices. So if you look on Windows, if you look in the accessibility tools, or you look on a Mac computer or a Chromebook, they're all going to have these built-in keyboards. So this is a keyboard that pops up on the screen that can then be used either with a touchscreen or by using a mouse and clicking on the different letters with their mouse. So this is a great option. And once you start typing a word, this black bar here will be filled up with predicted words, just like how your cell phone does that. So that could help speed along typing for someone. All right. Probably the most high-tech thing that we'll talk about today is eye gaze. So this is an example of an eye gaze device. So it's just a small thin toolbar. You can see it here connected to a laptop computer. This is the Tony Dynavox PCI. And what it does is it has cameras in here that are reading your eyes. So a person's able to control the click on things on the screen with eye movement only. So it's it takes a little training. It's a very different scenario than using a traditional mouse, and it does take a little learning curve, and there is a visual demand. Some people can experience some discomfort, and you have to build up time, but it is a great option if the other options we're talking about don't work out well for the person. All right. I really wanted to make sure that we devoted a few minutes to talking about dictation. For a lot of people who have difficulty accessing a device and typing, even if they can type well and accurately, a lot of times it's going to be at a slower pace, or fatigue may be an issue. Nowadays, we're really lucky. There's so many great free built-in dictation options. I put links to a bunch of them. You can use the dictation on your phone, of course, or an iPad. Chromebooks have built-in dictation in the accessibility tools. Google Docs has Google Voice typing right in the tools menu. There's a dictation option. Windows has a built-in dictation. Macs do. Microsoft Word, if you have the 365, there's a dictate button right there in your toolbar. Those are all built-in and free, okay? They're all decent. None of them are terrible. All of them are pretty good. That probably the highest level of dictation software is Dragon Professional. It's also very expensive. It's hundreds of dollars, but it gives someone who maybe relies really heavily on dictation, like somebody who struggles with computer access and needs to do an extensive amount of typing for their job or college or school. Dragon allows you to do things like add new vocabulary, make corrections totally by voice, navigate pretty much your whole computer by voice. So it's really important, though, to think about, the cognitive load. You would really have to see if the tool works if somebody has some speech or articulation challenges. It doesn't mean it's totally off the table if they do, but we just need to, test it out and, practice those skills. A person has to be pretty good at proofreading, and using a microphone is really, really important. So these microphones are pretty straightforward. This one here on the left is a newer one. Michael and I both have these. These are wireless. They're really lightweight. They go behind the head. This is called a bone conduction headset. So this little part does not go in your ears like how your earbuds might. It sits right outside your ear. And then this is the microphone arm. So it works really well. It has like good accuracy, but it also doesn't tie someone to the computer with a USB cord. It's something you can really keep on for many hours. And it also allows you to hear what's going on. Nothing's like actually in your ears. So this is great if somebody's dictating on and off throughout the day. It's just really flexible. Love those. All right. If you have an iPhone or an iPad, there is a really cool accessibility feature that's built in, meaning it's totally free, that is called voice control. And what it does is allows somebody to completely control their phone hands-free. So it'll either like label things or number things, and then you're going to say the number. So if I said 2, or I can't remember, maybe I have to say tap 2. I can't remember quite now. It would open my calendar app. Okay. And then it would renumber everything inside that app. So it's really a really awesome thing. And it's kind of unbelievable that it's free. All right, moving into switches. We only have 6 minutes left, and I definitely want to get to gaming, but switches are really important. So if we've kind of explored all of the other tools and aren't able to find a mouse or keyboard or eye gaze or anything like that that works to give good access to a device the person is trying to use, switches is something that we might explore. So switches can be connected, as you see in this picture, to an iPad, to a Mac computer, a Windows computer, to a Chromebook. You typically are going to need some sort of an interface like this orange and white button device. This is something, a go-between between the switch and the device that helps tell the device what the switch does. So when somebody hits the switch, it performs a certain function on the iPad. So switches can be used for very simple cause and effect games, but they can go all the way up to giving someone complete full access to a device. So I'll just give a quick little scenario. I'm working with a young woman who's an excellent switch access user. She uses her elbow to hit just one single switch. She's able to get on her iPad, independently text, independently FaceTime. She's playing certain games. She's going into Spotify, doing all the typical things that young people do on the computer, all with one single switch. So it's a little bit involved. It's a slower process, but it's can be a really awesome tool. There's a lot of different switches. We have tons in the TLC. They come in all shapes and sizes. Sip and puff. This is a tiny proximity. You just have to get close to it. Lots of different options. There's a lot of different things you can do with switches, even off a computer. So here a switch would plug into this. This could be modified for a game. So you could hit your switch and it's like you're rolling the dice. Okay, so this could be adapted in a classroom to do lots of different things. This cool tool we have in the TLC, it's called the Power Link. And you can kind of see in this picture here, here at the bottom, a hairdryer is plugged into the Power Link and a switch is plugged into Power Link. So the student or the person hits the switch, turns on the hairdryer blows the ball and knocks down the pins. Okay, so you could do a million creative things with switches. There are some resources. Last but not least, gaming is awesome. There's some really cool newer technology out there. We do have in the TLC this Xbox adaptive controller and this Logitech adaptive gaming kit. So essentially this is just like a regular Xbox controller, only it's bigger, so it's more accessible. And then there's all of these little switch ports on the back. So you could plug in all of these different switches and they would do different gaming functions. I don't really know a whole lot about video games, but let's say this one's programmed to do jump and this one's programmed to throw whatever. So all of your functions that gamers do, you can assign them to different switch and give someone access. Similarly, there's two other things I wanted to show. This is a quad stick. So this is a mouth controlled gaming joystick. So this is another picture of it. So it mounts on an arm and it comes to this very complicated mouthpiece. And it's complicated because gaming has a lot of different functions. It's not just simple moving a mouse around. So there's all of these different things that someone can use to put their mouth on and activate something. And this is like a little joystick down here that somebody could use with a chin. This is really like the go-to mouth controlled gaming joystick. The one on the right is an Evil controller's joystick. It looks like just your regular Xbox controller, but it's a lighter weight, so it's more accessible to someone. Able gamers, if you're interested in accessible gaming, Able Gamers is a great resource. I've been on their website recently. I was super impressed with the knowledge, and they definitely have a very solid gaming community who's very supportive and helping people find options that, despite their physical disability, would allow them to enjoy gaming. All right, so it's 12:58. We are out of time, but we welcome any questions or suggestions or ideas or sharing your experience. I can't get my chat back, guys. Let's see.
Kristen, Michael,
Oops.
thank you so much. Greatly appreciate all this. We
Absolutely.
have messages of thanks coming in, so that's wonderful. It seems like everyone really appreciated the information being shared. If anyone has a question, we have about a minute left that hasn't already been addressed. Please feel free to type it in or send us a quick message letting us know that you want to be unmuted, and we can definitely unmute you so you can participate live in the presentation. Again, lots of messages of thanks coming in still. So I think people received a lot of useful information today.
Good. Hopefully it was useful. If there's any tools that you want to try for yourself or a consumer you're working with or a family member, don't be afraid to reach out to the TLC, or you can reach out to Michael or I. Naomi just put on the contact info. Definitely reach out and we're happy to set up a loan.
Perfect. And can you just share, Naomi, I see Naomi did put the link.
She's on top of it.
Naomi's the best.
Yes. I see that last question come in. Sometimes if somebody does need more support, or borrowing tools isn't enough, that Michael and I do evaluations. That's exactly what we do at Advancing Opportunity. So you can definitely always reach to us, and there's other assistive technology professionals across the state of New Jersey and the country as well. So yeah, you can reach out to us for any details on that.
Perfect. So I do see someone actually private messaged, and I see a general comment in regards to funding and cost. I'm sure that varies depending on someone's what they may be available or what they may qualify for, depending on the system and billing. So if you would reach out directly to Kristen and Michael to find out that information, that would be perfect. Let me just see if this is a question. I see other people are sharing resources, so perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Alyssa. So I guess we will wrap it up for today, since I don't see any more active questions coming in. And again, if for any coverage of insurance or different programs, please reach out to Kristen and Michael directly. Kristen, unless there's a general statement that you have about coverage for the cost of any assessments?
Generally, something like this would not be covered by insurance, but some potential if you're someone who is needing assistive technology for work purposes, I would definitely encourage you to reach out to vocational rehab. So the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation Services, or DVRS. There's offices all throughout the state of New Jersey. So that would be our state agency that helps people with disabilities find and maintain their jobs. So we work a lot with them if it's a work-related need. Certainly school districts, if someone's in school and needs some assistive technology tools, you would go to your case manager and discuss that. And of course, through the DDD supports program, you could always talk to your support coordinator as well.
Thank you again, Naomi, Kristen, and Michael. Greatly appreciate your time and expertise that you shared with everyone today. Seems like a ton of great resources offered. Again, if anyone has specific follow-up that's needed, please use the link that Naomi shared in the chat section. You can expect a follow-up email in about a week, hopefully under. We will get a copy of the recording attached to that, and also a copy of the PowerPoint that was shared today. Thank you again for joining us. We look forward to seeing everyone for next month's open mic session. As we're preparing to say goodbye today, if you would just take a brief survey, takes about 30 seconds, would be greatly appreciated. That survey will also be attached in the follow-up email. Thank you, everyone. Please be well and enjoy your November. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of the week.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.